find out who the father is. It's enough baloney here. It's enough baloney.
All right, that is Larry Seedlin we watched. Just a quick 4-second clip of him. I didn't want to go too deep into what he has to say because during this whole break, as courts are shutting down for the holidays and for the New Year's, we are going to be talking a lot more about him because we are going to rewatch a trial that he did all the way back in 2007. Any guesses? I'll let you leave comments below, but I will be sharing that after we watch the video that we are now going to watch. So, Larry was invited on to Court TV to discuss what he thought about the different letters that Sarah Boone was writing to people, as she said it during the courtroom, but also to the judge, and more specifically the judge, so we can get his point of view on it. Being another judge, it definitely puts in perspective of what could Kraynick been thinking through this entire thing. So let's go ahead and watch, and it's of course with Julie Grant, if you haven't learned by now. I really enjoy her and her reporting. So I'm going to fade that over and we're going to watch.
Now, let's get to our top story for you. We have more on that. Shocking letter convicted killer Sarah Boone hand wrote to the Honorable Michael Kraynick. She blatantly disrespects him, writing in part, quote, "I was hoping to have been graced with your forgiveness, understanding, and consideration in any level or degree. For me, unfortunately, and regardless of when I spoke on my behalf or the number of, your ignorant mind was already made up." She goes on to say, "By your clear error and full-blown unfair bias against me, since your involvement in my crucible case as a whole, I've been unsuccessful in receiving anything from you as a supposed fair and neutral judge, except for your wish that I spend the rest of my life in prison. Please know and always remember, Mr. Kraynick, I forgive you." Boone ends the letter by writing, quote, "I am not a murderer, I am a survivor." Now, I said 28 pages, there was a lot in there, and we have a very special guest joining us to unpack it and react to this horrific note. Retired Judge Larry Seedlin on the show. Judge, good morning. Wonderful to have you back on Opening Statements. May I start with your
Good morning, Julie. I'm retired as a judge, but I'm working hard.
We know you are. We know you are. And I know many of...
I'm working hard as a lawyer. I represent a lot of... Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great, Judge. We have a little bit of a delay, so I want to tell everybody if it sounds a little bit off. That's why, just the technology. And so many people remember you presiding over the Anna Nicole Simpson case, and so you rose to fame, and you've been beloved by so many across the country ever since. Could we talk a little bit about Ms. Sarah Boone in Florida? What are your thoughts on this letter and how she blames and disrespects the judge?
Well, she writes this 28-page letter. You remember Shakespeare's Hamlet with Ophelia giving all these soliloquies. This woman is a full-fledged nut. The judge is not going to read the whole 28 pages because as a judge, you don't want to absorb the mental pain of these people. You don't want to wear yourself out. You don't want to get tired. So you read a few pages and then you turn to the sports section or the news. You don't want to. It's the ramblings of a nut, the musings of a mentally ill person. So there's no way I'm reading those 28 pages unless it's a love letter from my daughter Dax. I'm not reading.
Oh, that's awesome, Judge. And I have another portion.
It really is.
Yeah. I got another portion here. She says in the letter to his honor, "I'm no longer in your corrupt court." She calls it a corrupt court, "and free from your malevolent judicial grip." This judge was so professional, so kind. And we know Sarah Boone is difficult. I'm sure you have many difficult people who've been before you, Judge, throughout the years. What do you think, if anything, this judge should do in response to this?
Well, she went through 8 lawyers, and as a litigant, if you're a party in a lawsuit, civil, criminal, it shows instability when you go through more than 1 or 2. And I tell my clients that 1 or 2, if you're going through more than that, it shows you got some mental problems. I still find it difficult that a person can write an ex parte letter to the judge without it first being looked at by the prosecutor. It should be also looked at the prosecutor, and the prosecutor and that party should then set it as a hearing in front of the court. The court can have a hearing or just deny the letter. The smartest thing to do for the judge is to go radio silent, to do nothing. You don't want to give her any credence, any credibility. So you just don't do anything.
So a couple things with that. I never even really gave it much thought about the fact that she shouldn't be allowed to write these personal letters to him. You know, it'd be one thing if she was reaching out for the court, wanting to set up a hearing or just something to that effect. But I do agree. I don't think it's really right to be able to access the judge in that capacity and be sending a 28-page letter to him. You know, especially with the fact that she's just very undermining and telling him how bad of a job he did. It just doesn't seem like it's beneficial. It's not for a legal thing. And I agree, it shouldn't be allowed.
It's part of her DNA. When you read these letters by her, and when I had her to give a speech in the courtroom, she just pulls words out of the dictionary. She's a one-worder, and she looks for pretty fancy words in the dictionary, and she strings them together. If you put a light bulb in her mouth, it would light up. She's completely off the wall.
Judge, I think she ought to look up the word narcissist in the dictionary. Perhaps she'd find a definition that sounds familiar for herself. Then again, most of them never see themselves as what they are. Judge, this is sage advice that you're giving Judge Michael Kraynick in this case, to just do nothing, sit back. You referenced that awful speech Sarah Boone gave. We have a clip. Let's play it now.
I forgive George for beating me senseless, for trying to sleep because I had to go to work or my son's field trip the next day, for ruining my deceased family's heirlooms, traditions, and keepsakes, for drowning me in liquor and wine because I didn't want to drink, causing me to urinate on myself, then butting the end of the bottle in my face, giving me 2 black eyes and a bloody nose, for making me experience what it is to be sodomized, threatening to kill my friends and the neighbors when they checked on me to make sure I was alive and in one piece.
Judge Seidlin, what did you think of that speech she gave at sentencing? Have you ever heard anything like that throughout your career, either as a lawyer or judge?
I was a bad boy. As a judge, I wouldn't let them just go like they're in London, in Hyde Park, giving these rambling speeches. I would have cut it short. I would have been a little bit more rude. I'm not letting a meatball take over my courtroom. There's no way I'm going to give her that kind of audience. And she had an opportunity to leave her boyfriend, and many opportunities. And I know she was also abused by this guy. But you get on a Greyhound bus and you go to a different town. You go somewhere else. There comes a point where you have to have the strength, the courage to make a move and not stick him in a suitcase where he suffocates. I mean, it's bizarre. And unfortunately, I think the pandemic took a lot of these mentally weak individuals and even sent them further into the abyss. We're surrounded by a lot of mental weak people. So, like the play One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you can't allow the weak to destroy the strong. So the main character in that play, he says, "Why am I here?" And the response was, "You're here because of people like us. You can't allow the weak to destroy the strong. You got to stay strong. You got to exercise, eat good, and try to be mentally and physically healthy. It's a battle every day, and we all suffer through it. But we got to keep doing it. I mean, I got clients that
He's
are
a
off
long-winded
the deep end
talker.
sometimes. They can always call me. I try to bring them back into the rails."
Sure. No, I know you do. I know you are a tremendous lawyer and judge. Everybody fell in love with you, as I said, when you presided over Anna Nicole Smith's case. And we're so delighted to have you now on Court TV. Please come back. Judge Larry Seidlin, thank you for everything.
So, yeah, he was the one who was presiding over Anna Nicole's trial in 2007 when there was a massive legal battle over who would have possession of Anna Nicole's body and thus being able to choose where she was buried. I was quite younger for this, and I was thinking about it today, actually, leading up to this. I think that trial was the first one that I ever really started to pay attention to the legal system and watching trials. I think it was this one. However, I don't remember it very well. So during this break, while there's going to be no trials and different things going on because of the holidays and the new year, we are going to start rewatching some of this trial that he did. Now, what's interesting is, and then again, goes to the point that I was younger, but during that time, so many lawyers and people came out and said that this judge was crazy. They called him a weepy wacko because he ended up getting sentimental and crying just a little bit during one of the days in the trial. And also, so many people were saying that the courtroom was just a circus and it was crazy. The judge himself, he was born in New York, raised in New Jersey. He has a very outspoken personality. We just got to see it a little bit. He also is extremely long-winded when he talks, so sometimes it's too much. That is how he was in the entire trial, and it drove a lot of people crazy. So I'm excited to see it going back after watching so many trials now. It will be cool to see what people were talking about, if we agree or disagree. I kind of liked the idea that he was sentimental about everything that was going on around that trial, because it wasn't just her body, if you remember. There was a paternity suit between Anna's lawyer, who said the daughter was his, and then there was Larry. I'm blanking on his last name right now, but then there was Larry, and Larry ended up being the father, who then raised Danny Lynn, and she seemingly has had a wonderful childhood. He definitely prioritized her as number one, and good for him, because it was such an awful situation, and really came out of the blue. No one was expecting it. So there was a lot of documents and things that were not in place. So they had to go through a lot. So yeah, that's the plan. Thought it was interesting for this judge to come on and speak. He's saying that it was a good idea to stay radio silent. That is exactly what this judge has done. Even in the courtroom, this judge did not offer up emotions or his feelings. And as we've been saying now for weeks, thank God he didn't do that, because she would have taken anything to use against him in order to get a new trial. So it's great that he did that. It's also interesting because we know that she's talking about that she's proud of herself for taking all these legal steps to get a new trial. We do now know that James Owens said, "I am not representing her." for that. So his time in court with her and moving forward is completely done, which I don't really blame him. But it will be interesting to see if another lawyer will be able to take over and help her. As we have seen, she has gone through so many different people that I wouldn't be surprised if that's what starts happening again. I'm going to turn it over to the chat a little bit, see if there's anything I'm missing. Yeah, I agree with you, Beverly. Who would want to sit there and read a 28-page letter anyway from her? Even watching her clips at this point from the trial, it's like pulling teeth. Like, they just showed, what, a 20-second video, and I struggled to sit there and listen to Sarah Boone again. I just have had enough of her. It's just been constant with her. And the fact that even, we had all that time with her during the trial and the lead up to the trial with all the promotions, but it still is never ending because she just constantly is putting things out to the public. And yeah, I'm over it by a lot. All right, I am going to be calling it. Oh, I will say during this break, besides us going back over Anna Nicole Smith, I'm going to be doing some shorter videos that I thought would be good for just getting information, but also knowing that with everything that people have, families, family time with the holidays, New Year's, people are going to be traveling. So it will be a bit of shorter form videos, but we're going to be doing next week, every single day, a lawsuit. And the first ones we're going to be focusing on for that week are either crazy or weird different lawsuits that Disney as a company has had. So be looking out for that. There's some really good ones. So I think people will appreciate it's entertaining, but it's also a good way to go through and see the different things that people have tried to either get away with or serious things that Disney was trying to skirt away from and not try to deal with that ended up working in the client's favor and not going well for Disney. So, all right, thank you for watching. As always, it was a good one. I hope people got to hear just a little bit more from judges, understand their line of thinking, and we will be checking into Larry Seedling next week.